Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my recordings. In this recording, I am going to speculate like no one's business. I am honestly going to speculate to the extreme, and I want to do it around the MCU. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know whether I'm going to be right about any of this stuff. But that is the fun, if you will, of speculation as a YouTuber. There's going to be some substance, right? There's going to be some substance. But at the end of the day, I am making some judgment calls. I'm making some assertions with little in the way of some certainty. Like, I really don't know which way the wind is going to blow on this. But that's part of the fun for me, right? And I would say in all things, you should never substitute my judgment for your own, right? I'm a big fan of giving people some things to think about, some things to consider. But I would never, ever suggest that you substitute my judgment for your own. I would always encourage you to do your research and determine, what is best for you, what actually makes sense for you as a collector and for you as the person that is going to be spending or not spending your money, right? So recently I received a communication from Harvey Abel. And Harvey sent over to me a really fantastic news article from his local paper that I found really intriguing. And what it was an examination of the phase 4 of the MCU and potentially how things are going to play out with the various movies that were going to be released as part of phase 4. And they did it through the lens of what is happening in the world right now. And so I found it to be very helpful because anything in a paper to some degree or another is going to have some scrutiny associated with it, right? It's a little bit different than even a blog post for that matter, because you have a writer who has a reputation, you have an editor who has a reputation, you may even have an assistant editor or two and even fact checkers that actually get involved before something is published in a newspaper. So it gives me just a little comfort that there was some scrutiny that was applied to this article. It's not to say they don't get it wrong. But simply to say that there was maybe a little bit of, again, some filters that have been applied to this to determine that there are some facts that are in here, right? So in this news article, it basically mapped out what phase 4 of the MCU actually looks like. And again, I think that this was rooted definitely in some research on the part of the reporter. And what they looked at, and I want to run through these dates because this is the factual part. We're going to get the facts out of the way, and then we're just going to make stuff up for the rest of this recording. But the facts are is that the Black Widow movie has basically been pushed back as a result of what is happening right now. And the Black Widow movie has basically taken the place of the Eternals movie. The Eternals movie already had a slate at which it was going to be released. Black Widow has been pushed back to take that spot, which has a cascading effect on everything else, right? So just want to run through this again to put this out there, that the Black Widow movie will now not appear until November 6th of 2020, right? So it has been pushed back a significant amount of time to Q4 of 2020. As a result of that, Eternals has been pushed back to basically Q1. So February 12th, 2021 is when Eternals is supposed to be seen. Shang-Chi has been pushed back to May of 2021. Spider-Man has been pushed back to November 5th of 2021. Thor, February of 2022. Doctor Strange, March of 2022. Black Panther 2, which I'm excited about, May of 2022. Captain Marvel, the second Captain Marvel, July of 2022, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is now basically Q4 of 2022. And then there's a couple of things that are just like so far out that no one even cares to guess as to what those dates are going to be. And it's things like Ant-Man 3, Blade, and then anything related to the X-Men and FF have been pushed back to basically we don't even know. That to be determined is basically what they have said for Ant-Man, Blade, anything related to X-Men and FF. So now that we've got the facts out of the way, in my head, what I think has essentially been created here is maybe a buying opportunity. Maybe a buying opportunity for books that are associated with these movies, specifically around the characters, right? The first appearances, the second appearances of the characters that were supposed to be in this movie. We may have just created a buying opportunity for all of us as it relates to these movies, as it relates to the delay. You guys know this, that, as soon as a movie gets announced, there is a huge run-up. There's a run-up in the speculative hype associated with the characters, anyone that the character is associated with, anyone that the character ever met or interacted with in any comic. There is a run-up in the values of those books as soon as the movie is announced. There's a run-up that is associated with the trailer and the release of the trailer. There's a whole cascade of events that really results in spikes associated with the asking prices of these books. And so the actual FMVs might be different. The fair market values might be a little bit different from the asking prices, but there is definitely a run-up in the asking prices as a result of the speculative hype that surrounds these movies, which envelops the various books that are associated with the movies and the characters. And so as a result of everything being pushed back, in my head, I feel like there could be a buying opportunity that has just been created, especially when you combine it with the fact that millions of people aren't necessarily working right now. And so if you have someone that was buying lots of books, for example, the Eternals books. I'm just using this as an example. A lot of people that were buying these Eternals books because they expected this movie to actually drop in 2020. They're buying them, maybe they're paying a little bit more for them, and they are expecting to offload those books as soon as that trailer drops. And now what we are learning is that these folks are potentially going to have to wait until 2021 to actually offload those books. To be able to make a profit on those books, they now have to wait a lot longer than what they anticipated. And if those people that bought those books to turn that profit are holding those books longer, and the goal line is so far out into the future, maybe they decide, you know what? I can't wait any longer. Maybe I'm not working. Maybe I don't have a job. Maybe I don't have any income. Maybe it's so far off into the future, I just can't wait. Maybe there's something else that I want to buy, right? If I'm holding a ton of Eternals books, maybe there's something else that I want to buy because this might be a buying opportunity for other things. Maybe now is the time to sell those Eternal books. And so as a result of that, you could see books that are actually coming onto the market maybe closer to FMV, maybe below FMV, that otherwise would not have been sold at those prices because people were expecting that movie to actually drop in the back half of this year. They are not expecting to have to wait until February. And you could potentially make that same type of argument for like the Shang-Chi or the Thor book, or Clea's appearance in Doctor Strange, right? People were like, Clea's gonna be in the movie, and so people went out and bought her first appearance and second appearance, and maybe they overpaid for that, and maybe they're now in a position where they don't want to wait or they can't wait for one reason or another. And so there may be a buying opportunity that is now present as a result of the delays associated with everything that is happening in the world and the MCU being pushed out. Now, again, this is all speculation. This is all speculation, right? Because there is also the thing of, if there is pent-up demand, should some of these books actually hit the market, because there is so much pent up demand because of people not being able to get those books before, that doesn't necessarily mean that those books are going to be sold cheaply. They may be sold, but maybe not as cheaply, because there is pent up demand that is waiting to absorb those books, right? And that is like the area of uncertainty. There is that balance of supply versus demand. And if there is pent up demand and the supply is still kind of trickling out, then there is a leveling of the supply versus the demand, you know? And so it's a matter of time to see whether there is more supply that hits the market that exceeds the demand, which results in prices actually dropping. And I have no crystal ball to determine when that is actually going to happen, right? Because the reality is that people could put out these books and there could be no real interest in those books, right? Maybe there's no real interest in Clea's first appearance or second appearance or something like that, or Ajax's first appearance from the Eternals movie. And so maybe there is no real pent up demand. So the supply comes out and people are like, no big deal. You know, the reality is I don't have that crystal ball to know how we as a comic book community as a whole, right? We as a market as a whole is going to respond to this. I also don't know whether those people that are sitting on 10, 12, 15 copies, whatever it happens to be of some of these books, whether they have to sell, because that's the other part of it is, you know, if you are a speculator, right, and you have the financial resources to buy multiple copies of these books, then you might not have to sell because you have some insulation from things that are happening right now. So there is no guarantees with any of this that there will be supply. There is no guarantees that there will be pent up demand, or that there will be demand, or that there will be an excess of supply. I honestly don't know. But in my head, again, it feels like the pressure has been taken down a notch. Right? FOMO, fear of missing out. We've spoken about this on the channel as a real thing. And if you haven't seen that video or watched that video, I definitely encourage you to check that out. But FOMO is a real thing. And so FOMO is that fear of missing out on that opportunity. And if the movie has been pushed out, then the fear level has now come down, because now I'm not missing out. I have more time. Maybe I don't feel that pressure to overpay for a comic now because I know I have time. And so as a result of that pressure coming down and me having more time, maybe I don't overbid for that book. And if I don't overbid for that book, and my fellow members of the comic book community also don't overbid because there's no fear, then maybe the prices start to come down, or the prices start to level out. Again, only a matter of time to know how this stuff will play out. But the fact that things have been delayed, it might be a sign that there could be some leveling of the market. There could be a little bit of a reset. Now, some of you might hear that, and some of you may just say it's a crash. It's a comic book crash. I will not give into that because I don't believe that is true. I do not believe that that prices coming down, prices leveling out is a crash. I do not believe that. But it, you know, the delay, the pressure valve being opened up a little bit does, you know, lessen the stress, if you will. And as the stress comes down, as the fear comes down, people may start to make more logical decisions about how they spend their money, right? And so again, it's only a matter of time to kind of know what's going to happen. But what I will tell you is I kind of sort of now have a renewed interest in actually picking up a book that was originally on my my want list for 2018, but I could not get it because a movie was on the horizon. And as a result of that movie ultimately coming out, the prices of that book skyrocketed, and I walked away from that book because I try not to do red ocean stuff. But now with that movie being pushed out to 2022, that the excitement, if you will, and the high prices associated with the run-up of the first movie and the delay in the second movie may allow those prices to continue coming down, because they have been coming down slowly, right? And maybe in that valley between movie 1 and movie 2 now being further out, maybe in that valley is the sweet spot. Maybe that is the sweet spot for me to be able to get that book that was on my want list back in 2018, right? There is that sweet spot where I don't necessarily have to be in the bloody oceans. I don't have to be in the bloody waters of competition to go for a low grade book, because my desire to pay a certain amount doesn't lend itself to a high grade, right? Maybe my desire to pay a certain amount now gets me a much higher grade because other people don't feel that pressure. Other people aren't buying these books up and gobbling them up in order to have them to make some money off of. Maybe between that valley, there is a sweet spot for me to slide in there. For me to maybe slide in there and get something really nice for myself that gets to sit in the collection. Then I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Some of you may have already guessed it from some comments that I made before, but what I've learned is that if I say certain things on this channel, it negatively sometimes impacts things that I want to do. So I'm not gonna put it out there, because then people may take action and may say, well, Reggie said that it was blue ocean, so let me get in these blue waters and go after it. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna put it out there, because that would ruin my chances of getting this book. And if you know what I'm talking about, please don't give it away. Don't make my ocean all bloody and stuff. But these are some of my thoughts, right? I feel like the delay in what is happening with the MCU could actually be beneficial for collectors and for people that have these want lists that they've developed. It might be a bad period of time, if you will, for speculators, because part of how the speculator makes his or her money is through the hype and the excitement that comes along with these movies and with the streaming services and things like that. And I want to mention that I have no problem with speculators. No problem. Because I also realize that there are speculators that are also collectors, or collectors that are speculators, right? I've realized that we are the speculators to some degree or another, right? So it would be disingenuous of me to poo-poo a speculator when, to some degree or another, I am a speculator, right? But it might not necessarily be a great time for speculators in the near term, but it very much could be a fantastic time for those of us that are collectors, because in this valley could be a sweet spot of opportunity. And in all things, as I started this video, I will say that you need to definitely, use your judgment. Use your judgment. Look at what is happening in the market. Look at the FMV associated with these books. Look at the sales volume that is actually happening. Look at the census data. Look at the release schedule for these movies and for the streaming services, and decide for yourself how and when you are going to go after books that are associated with these movies. Because again, in my head, it seems like this could be a great time. But I don't know what book you're looking at. I don't know what grade you're looking at. I don't know what character you're thinking about, right? But I think that there are some things here that we definitely want to noodle on and to think a little bit about. As always, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen to this recording. I hope that you found it maybe informative and maybe even entertaining. And if you did, I want to encourage you to leave a comment behind, hit the thumbs up button, and let's mix it up in the comment section. If you need to reach out to me, you can do that as well. You can do it on Instagram, which is my preferred, at Regie Collects. Take care.